From reed flute, hear what tale it tells, what plaint it makes of absence's ills. From jungle bed, since me they tore, men's women's eyes have wept right sore. Man, those opening lines of the Mesnevi give me chills every single time. It's this hauntingly beautiful metaphor, right? A reed that's been cut into a flute, literally crying out with every breath of music because it's been violently ripped from its home in the riverbed. That one image completely sets the stage for one of the absolute greatest works of literature in human history.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into the life, the incredibly turbulent times, and the philosophical masterwork of Jalal al-Din Rumi. We're going to strip away the modern myths, find the actual historical guy, see how his work literally anchored an entire empire, and decode the parables he left behind.
Our roadmap for today is pretty straightforward. 1, the torn reed. 2, empires in upheaval. And 3, the song itself. Let's get right into it. Section 1, the torn reed, the man behind the myth. Okay, so Rumi wasn't just some wandering poet who appeared out of nowhere. Born back in 1207 in the city of Balkh, he actually came from a family of royal lineage and serious, heavy-hitting scholarship. His dad was a famous doctor of Islamic law. His life took a massive pivot in 1244 when he met a guy named Shemsuddin in Konya before he eventually passed away in 1273. What's truly wild is contrasting the two very distinct halves of his life. For years, Rumi was your classic orthodox academic. I mean, he was a master of jurisprudence, literally a professor at 4 different colleges in Konya. But then, boom, he explodes into this ecstatic mystic we know today, the actual founder of the Mesnevi dervishes. You know the famous whirling dervishes? So what was the catalyst for that total 180? Enter Shemsuddin of Tabriz. This guy was a wandering, intensely aggressive mystic in a black felt cap who demanded Rumi's absolute, total devotion. He completely disrupted Rumi's life, pulling him away from his books and his students. And when Shems mysteriously vanished, he was likely murdered in a riot sparked by Rumi's jealous followers. It completely broke Rumi. He actually created those iconic whirling dances originally as a garb of mourning for his lost best friend. Section 2, empires in upheaval, the uprooted bed. You have to remember, the geopolitical world around Rumi was quite literally collapsing. The powerful Khwarezmian Empire where he was born, totally crushed by Genghis Khan and the Mongols. This forced Rumi's family to flee their home in 1211, plunging them into years of wandering through Baghdad, Mecca, and Damascus, just trying to survive. Eventually, they found a safe haven in the Seljuk Sultanate of Rome, what we now call Anatolia, under Sultan Alauddin Kikubad. Just to put the sheer scale of this trauma into perspective for a second, 12,000. Historical records tell us the Mongols destroyed 12,000 mosques in Rumi's home city of Balkh alone. 200,000 people were let out and shot with arrows. It was, quite literally, the apocalyptic erasure of a culture. But against all odds, amid that unimaginable destruction, Rumi's work became this massive cultural anchor. In fact, his contemporary, the master poet Sadi of Shiraz, actually presented Rumi's odes to the Mongol Khan, calling them the absolute pinnacle of Eastern literature. This is so crucial because Rumi's words practically preserved the soul and the literary tradition of the Persian Empire right when it was on the brink of being permanently wiped off the map. He gave an entire civilization a spiritual survival mechanism. Which brings us to Section 3, the song itself, Parables of the Mesnevi. We've reached the core of his legacy, the text he dictated over years to his devoted scribe, Hooman The Writer. And the sheer scale of this thing is mind-blowing. 26,600. That is the number of rhyming couplets that make up this text, spread out over 6 massive volumes. Now, what exactly is a Mesnevi? Basically, it's a specific Persian poetic form made up of rhyming couplets. But Rumi completely elevated it. He used this form to map out what he called the roots of the religion, weaving these incredibly complex spiritual and philosophical allegories to guide the reader toward divine truth. Let's actually decode one. Take the famous parable of the lion and the beasts. The setup is pretty simple. A valley of terrified animals makes a pact. To stop being hunted randomly, they agree to offer one daily sacrifice to a tyrannical lion. This grim routine goes on until, one day, a clever hare is chosen as the meal. Now, the hare uses his wits to trick the lion into staring down a well, where the lion attacks his own reflection and drowns. But right when you think this is just a cute animal fable, Rumi drops this massive philosophical punchline. To rout an armed foe is nothing very fresh. A lion true is he who conquers his own flesh. So as mature readers decoding this allegory, we realize there are no animals here. The lion, that represents our carnal flesh, our base pride, those worldly appetites demanding constant sacrifices from us. The hare represents the mind and divine wisdom. It's a profound metaphor for the greater warfare. It's not a physical battle, it's the war against your own ego. Let's look at one more. This second parable opens with a really bitter domestic dispute. A destitute Arab and his wife are out in the desert, furiously arguing over their extreme poverty. They literally have nothing, no food, no jugs, just absolute grinding poverty. Here's how it plays out. First, the wife angrily demands some basic household comforts. Second, the husband humbly scoops up some precious rainwater, literally the only thing of value they possess, into a pitcher. Third, he carries this pitcher across the scorching desert to offer it to the infinitely wealthy caliph, hoping for a reward. Once again, we have to peel back the layers. The wife represents our flesh, our greed, our total obsession with the finite material world. The husband, on the other hand, represents the soul and the intellect, trying desperately to reach out to the infinite. And here is the real takeaway. Rumi is telling us that our worldly forms, our human logic, they're just ciphers. They're placeholders. True reality is the positive, spiritual infinite. He uses these characters to show how the finite human mind, the Arab, is always trying to bring its tiny, limited offerings, that pitcher of rainwater, to the bottomless, infinite ocean of the divine, which is the caliph. This perfectly encapsulates what Rumi was doing. As the text says, the finite unto infinite's not joined, or what need of the prophets, they've not scripture coined. The prophets have been sent to link the two in one. That is the entire purpose of the Mesnevi right there. It's a bridge. Rumi wrote tens of thousands of lines to link our flawed everyday reality to those infinite spiritual truths. I want to leave you with this final thought. We started with that image of the reed flute, crying out because it was separated from its source. Centuries after those empires fell, long after the Mongols and Seljuks faded into dust, Rumi's poetry is still here. So I ask you, if your soul is a reed torn from its bed, what song is your life playing to find its way back? Thanks so much for exploring the Mesnevi with me today. Keep seeking, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.